AmaZulu FC were in action, and pretty much their, African adventure is in tatters, John T. Mark. This is kind of the big stages that Benni McCarthy always wanted to be on, and as much as he's been on some of the biggest stages of the world, his players kind of shrunk as far as this campaign is concerned in the rest of Africa. What do you make of it?
Well, they had a couple of decent home wins, but overall, obviously not making it into the next round. It's their first time in the Champions League, so you've got to give them a bit of leeway. I think they'll have got good experience from it. I don't know if they'll make it again next season. It's not looking like that in terms of their league position, but I think that they did reasonably well to get to the group stages. Obviously with some good victories there, but it wasn't the greatest campaign in the group stages itself. Benni McCarthy doing as usual, blaming it on the players, blaming it on the players, sort of thing that he likes to do, which I don't think is necessarily the best coaching methodology. Maybe Kevin can give us some tips there, but the best coaches for me are the ones who tend to take it on the chin themselves and protect their players a bit. But Benni tends to lash out a bit, and I don't think that's necessarily the way forward. But AmaZulu, in the end, they've not made it. They'll be disappointed, but I think they can reflect. I think in the long term they can reflect on a first campaign in the Champions League. It's not a bad achievement to have made it all the way to the group stages.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Coach, to that point, I mean, what do you make of the style of management of Mr. Benni McCarthy? And obviously, he came into this campaign thinking that they were going to, make progress. Now you qualify. Now maybe there's some investment. Now you get your best team together. Like John T said, good home results, but just don't seem to have that mettle that's required, that streetwiseness that's required to take on teams from the rest of Africa.
Yeah, Gamza, I think, again, I can agree with John T in certain things that he says. But AmaZulu, and I said this, I think it was on our first or second show where I said, as South Africans, we are not yet in that space as far as football is concerned. We're 25 years in democracy, and Ghana have been sending players up and down. So is Senegal, so is Egypt. They're sending them up and down to wherever parts in the world, and they looking to play the Champions League because that is what exposes your players the most. And unfortunately, our players, I said this before, our players don't have enough experience that have come back with them. Why Benni will say the players is because Benni has played at all those highest levels. He's played there, but he blames his players because they have not received the information from other players that have been there before. It's unlike Sundowns now. All three their coaches have been on the African planet. They know what the Champions League is all about. And some of their most experienced players are there. So the players that haven't played CAF yet have got a good feeling of what the Champions League is all about. And of course, let's not take it away. The money that Sundowns puts into the campaign, I don't think AmaZulu is able to spend a quarter of that type of money. And this is where you want your bosses also to be, is, guys, if you want to go to the Champions League, you must be prepared to spend so the players can play. I think that's where we need to come out of.
Okay, no, I hear you. And Brighton, to that point, maybe we speak about, the complaints from Benni as far as recruitment and having enough of the players. Was this always going to be a learning curve for them? Because, like I say, they want to make progress, but we made the point that this is their first time at the Champions League. At this level, you do need players who've obviously been able to kind of operate at a high level. And if you don't have that reference point, we're always setting ourselves up for failure, or fans of AmaZulu setting themselves up for failure, expecting more than what's happened, considering that it takes so much to be a team that competes at that level.
Yeah, look, I love how Mark has put it, John T, how he's saying, look, they need to reflect. It was their first maiden season. But at the same time, how long are we going to keep on saying that? Because we keep on referring to ourselves as a footballing nation, understand? So you need to understand that when we get to that point, if you get to be in the Champions League space, you are there to try and win it, or at least go all the way to the final and lose it those semifinals, you know. So time and again, it's always a case of us saying it's a first-time experience, this and that. When are we going to get to a point where we say, as South Africans, we deserve to be on top in everything that we do, understand? Because we say we have one of the best leagues in Africa, so to speak. So if we're saying we have one of the best leagues in Africa, we should be having two teams in the semi-final facing each other, or raring to go and ready to face each other. Why is it that we always have Zamalek and Egypt, and Al Ahly being in the semi-finals time and again, you know? All those kind of things, we need eradicating them. And then coming back to AmaZulu, I believe that Coach Benni as well, I think he also needs to reflect on himself and on a tactical point of view as well, and on a player management style as well, because we're talking about the experience that you need. And time and again, all these games, I'm still trying to understand why is Lehlonololo Majoro being sidelined, a player who's vastly experienced and who has tasted campaign with Kaizer Chiefs, with Orlando Pirates, you know, and Vets actually, you know. So I'm thinking that if you're gonna worry about personnel, and we're talking about Majoro alone, he's a player that his numbers speak volumes. Last season alone, he was high with assists. He was one of their leading goal scorers, you know. And then overnight, he has turned into a bad player, and that's the experience that you kind of need when you're going to continental football. So these are the things that I feel like, as coaches, we need to also look at ways where we can reflect, introspect as well, and to say on a tactical perspective and on a managerial side of things, player managerial side of things. Yeah.
I mean, so how do you kind of encapsulate the season for AmaZulu? They're sitting number 9 in the table. You know, mixed result out of the last 5, 1 victory, 2 defeats in the league, and 2 draws. So they've not necessarily kind of picked up from where they left off. How do you then kind of summarize what kind of season it is? Are these the teething problems en route to becoming a major contender, or do you think they've actually kind of taken a couple of steps back instead of moving forward?
Well, I think on my side, AmaZulu at this point are low on confidence. It seems as if the background staff is not fully clued on in terms of what's happening now. What's the next stage? So if you're not going to be able to move to the next gear, then we're going to have a problem. Because as you just sum it up, as you just put it, that the results that you just pointed out, I was just looking at their group B, which is they finished position 3, played 5 matches, won 2, lost 3, 6 points, and then scored 2 goals, conceded 5 goals. As you mentioned, that they're sitting number 9 domestically, which is they also do, compared to last season where they were and compared to where they are now, I think there's a big drop. They came in strong. Everybody was rooting for them to keep the consistency, which is something that is missing in our football. Again, I'm going to go back to the gentleman that they've highlighted. I think time and again, we're seeing coaches having players that they can use best on their position, but failing on which they're trying to have quick fix, and which is so many times you see players being shifted into position. As for example, if you see how they've played on this game, the last game that they played against Raja Casablanca, you look at their back line. On their back line, they had Veli Motor, they had Kumete, there's Kumalo, Toki, and Malepe. That back four. Now you're substituting, you put Kumete on the right back, you put Skakane up front. He plays in front of him. So again, you look at the strength. Gumede has been playing much fluently, playing as a center back, which is, I feel, that's where the Achilles heel is. Great player, but if they can get a center back that can pair up with Toki or with Gumede, so they need to make up their mind in terms of how they position those players. If with the players that you had, you finish in the position that you finish second, you are close to fighting for the league. Exactly, keep on the same thing and just add a little bit of numbers on the players that you might have. Because for me, I felt that in this position, you still have enough players with a lot of experience. I mean, you have the XTN, you have Mamela, you have Buchanan, you have Bulenga, you have Tokyo, Skaka, and you have Nduli, you have Mlambo in the middle. So all those players, they would have given you something. Some of them have tasted the CAF experience. Some of them have played at the highest level. So now what you need to do, blend in with those players, try to get those players to be back into their motivational stage. Now I'm trying to question this now. Are the players more fresher on their mind and being overworked on the field? Because if players are not fresher on their mind, they will not perform for you. So therefore, start looking for mechanism. What can we fix tactically? And coach again needs to reflect in a sense that what is it that I'm doing? Because I had the same players. I finished second. Yes, I might need a boost there and there, but now I still have Mtembu up front. I still have Majoro. I still have Ntuli. Then what else do I need to do? Is my formation wrong? Are the players adapting to what I want them to do? Maybe not. At this point, I think they need to then sit down with the players and the coach just have to restructure, getting the same energy that he got in there with those players for them to get better results.
We've heard Coach Benni talk about complacency from his players. I mean, it seems, especially with the modern day player, that there's a lack of hunger. And, when you dial it into South African players and players in this league, there just doesn't seem to be that appetite to be at their best. Because you actually see a club like Orlando Pirates, who we'll get to in a while, and how they go about, making the most of this opportunity. Do you sense there's a lack of hunger from those players for this African adventure?
I kind of go, if you're going to go comparing Pirates and AmaZulu, I think you've got to look at the opposition as well. I mean, I do think that AmaZulu maybe could have done better. Hugo Bruce was certainly happy enough with their performance. The Bafana coach, he said he picked their players on the back of basically their Champions League performances, and I just think that also, Pirates had the Swaziland team, Royal Leopard. I mean, we'll talk about them in a bit, and Saura. If you look at the teams in AmaZulu's group, Raja
Champions
Casablanca,
League versus Confederation.
Raja Casablanca, stacks of experience on the continent. ES Seti from Algeria, stacks of experience on the continent. Even Guinea's Horoya have been in the Champions League more often than AmaZulu would have been in the Champions League. So I think if you look at it on reflection, it's fair to say that it's AmaZulu's first time. They need to sort of maybe look at it a bit philosophically and say, okay, well, we got to the group stages. That's an achievement. Next time we need to build on that. It's whether they can build on that. The only thing I don't want to harp on about Benni McCarthy's sort of management coaching tactics or whatever it is, but he does tend to lay it all on the players. It goes back to when he was at Cape Town City. He did the same thing. He would always sort of speak out against his players. I don't know, it's quite abrasive, and maybe doesn't mean for a long-term sort of stay. There's already rumors of sort of unrest or a little bit of upset at AmaZulu from before even this latest outburst. So just with that, I'm not sure about. But I do think that if you look at the quality of opposition that AmaZulu had to play compared to Pirates had to play, it's chalk and cheese. And in that sense, AmaZulu can be fairly happy with what they did. 2 home wins, 6.
No, there we go. Well, no, nicely put into perspective there, Jonty, in terms of the caliber of opposition.